Here we are in the historic town of Newark for the 3rd Pikes and Plunder Festival, and with over 300 re-enactors, things are bound to go off with a bang.
So Pikes and Plunder is our annual Civil War festival, and we do it every year, and it's just an opportunity for us to show what life was really like during the Civil War. Newark has such amazing built heritage. We're here at the Sconce, which is one of the best earthwork defences that survives from the Civil War, and we've got the castle, so we've got lots of events happening around the town. So it's just to showcase what it was actually like to be here during the Civil War.
Here I am in 1643 with a barber surgeon's wife. Now, I've been told that her husband actually died of the typhus, but can you tell us a little bit about the wounds that were sustained in the Civil War, Esther?
Yeah, a lot of musket wounds, gunshot wounds, slash injuries from swords, pikes falling from horses, being shot by cannon, shattered bones, compound fractures, fractures of the skull, that kind of thing.
Crikey. Right, okay, so you have here musket balls, is that?
Yes, these are musket balls that would have been retrieved from various different parts of the body, like arm, leg, abdomen, shoulder, back, neck.
Horrific injuries, yeah, I'm guessing. And how would you deal with this as a barber surgeon's wife?
If it was buried deep within the leg, you'd put a tourniquet on the top of the leg and make sure the femoral artery wasn't bleeding out, and then you'd ferret around with a knife until you'd found it, dig it out with the forceps, and make sure that the wound was clean and you'd got any fabric out, any wool or any linen that had been dragged in when the ball went through the clothing, because that would fester and it would cause sepsis, septicemia, and they'd die of an infection.
We produce historical events and tours for various clients. Our involvement here came about when we were contacted directly by the Newark Civil War Centre and are now part of the setup, managing the event on behalf of that body.
England has such a rich history. In schools nowadays you don't actually study British history, and we've got such a fantastic one going back thousands and thousands of years. And it's a shame we don't shout about it. I understand the importance of the worldwide history and everything else, don't get me wrong, but I think that we need to actually sort of focus what is at home and what we have been through.
I'm outside an officer's day tent, and I'm here with Eric, who is going to tell us a little bit about your group and your involvement in the project here today.
I'm depicting an ensign, so a junior rank of officer. I carry the standard for the regiment and lead the pike.
I can see you're dressed wonderfully, actually. Can you tell me a little bit about the involvement of this character that you're embodying today in the Civil War?
I'm wearing my civilian costume, basically, and other than the bit of armour, the gorget around my throat, and the scarf, and the heavier sword, I'm just in civilian costume. But those differences actually denote that I'm fighting for one side or the other.
Judging by this colour, I'm guessing you're a royalist.
That's correct, yes.
How can you tell, what are the differences in colour then? What would the parliamentarians have worn?
The parliamentarians tend to wear blue, orange, tawnies and greens and yellows, depending on who was in charge of the actual army at the time.
The National Civil War Centre's role is to really explain to people why it was such a key event in Britain's history. Lots of things that happened during the Civil War are fundamental things to us. So things like representation, constitutional monarchy, they all have their basis here. Even the whole idea of one man, one vote kind of comes back to this. And so this event really sparks that off for people, and we hope that they come to the centre then to find out more.
Here I am with Vicky at the National Civil War Centre, and we're here with a replica of a printing press. Vicky, can you tell me the significance of the press during the Civil War?
Yes, what we're looking at here is the birth of the newspaper in Britain. So King Charles is at his court in Oxford. and he starts this weekly news sheet called Mercurius Orlicus, and when Parliament heard about this, they brought out their version called Mercurius Britannicus, published in London. And so you had these two newspapers publishing at the same time, and if you could work out what was really going on by examining these two partisan publications.
So that's similar to today in the way that it helps us make decisions, isn't it? And I notice here that we have got some really interesting pictures. Were these used during the Civil War period?
This one is of interest especially because it tells you a story about how pictures arrived among the common people. It shows King Charles, and it's been taken from another woodcut which was done in 1642 when the king set up his standard at Nottingham. And so, because it was done with the king's authorisation, probably the woodcutter may have had access to perhaps an engraving, because the original picture is probably from a Van Dyck painting, which an ordinary woodcutter never would have seen. But because of this process of copying blocks and copying on, this is how the king's image came to be known amongst the common people.
Okay, and what's Al doing over here?
What Al's doing is he's preparing the paper to be printed. So you have two printers working together. One has the clean job, dealing with the paper, and one has the dirty job, the inky job, putting the ink on here. So Al's just damping it because that makes the ink adhere much better onto the paper.
Okay, great. So what's the next stage then of this? What are we doing now?
The next stage, he's going to come pretty much where you are, so he's going to step over here. I'll lift up, this is called the frisket, which is like, there's like a little mask so you don't get ink where you don't want it. And he's fastening it on with some pins. Fold it back down, and now it's my turn. These are called ink balls, and I've put some of the very thick black sticky ink onto them to distribute it evenly, and then I'm going to put it onto the woodcuts ready for printing.
Would this have taken a long time? Is it a long
We're working very slowly, but two professional printers working together, they would have had this press braced to the ceiling. Reason being that they were working 250 sheets an hour.
Wow.
And that's probably, I think it's roughly 3 a minute.
So by the end of the day, they would be expected to get thousands of these.
This 250 sheet marker was called a token, and they were paid by the token. So they were very, very motivated to get the printing done.
Yeah, great. Okay, so what happens now?
I'm now going to pull this in to my first marker. Another name for this press was the two-pull press, because you push it in halfway, take a pull, and then you go on to the next half. So we wind that back out, and then we see how we've done.
That's perfect. So this was guesswork in a way, was it, to know where you're needing to press that down?
There's a process at the start of the day called make ready.
Right.
And so, yes, we've had a few false starts, and so now I think we're on it. But these were really meant to be sold in the marketplace for a penny. So if they're a little bit rough, we're not going to worry too much.
Wow, and this is the product of our work today. Thank you so much, Vicky and Al, for your time. I'm very proud. I've had a wonderful day here at the Pikes and Plunder event, learning about all things Civil War. But now it's time for me to go off and enjoy the splendid beauty of this wonderful medieval castle.